Hello friends, in the last video we have seen simple RAG workflow process. What are the various components in the RAG process? In this video we are going to see working demo using the RAG pattern. As shown in the screen, we are going to use open source Llama 3 model. We can download locally from the Ollama website, and the second vector database, Chroma database. This is also open source, and we are going to use the sample company policy document for the knowledge base. This is the RAG workflow as we discussed earlier. First, we will use the company policy document as a knowledge and ingest that. And then using the embedding model, we are converting into vectors and indexing into the vector database, which is ChromaDB. And then when the user sends the query, it will retrieve the corresponding chunk. That is the query retrieval process. Once we have that chunk, we will augment that along with the user query and send the request to the LLM. Then finally LLM is able to generate the response. So these are the four main steps. So we are going to see example question. How many vacation days do you have? That is the information inside the company HR policy document, and the context will be retrieved using the semantic search. This is pre-processing knowledge ingestion process. Then the user sends a query, employee gets, this is the context retrieval. When the user sends a query, the context is retrieved from that knowledge base. Employee gets 20 vacation days per year. Then it is augmented along with the user query question plus context retrieval will be sent to the LLM, and the LLM is giving response based on the company policy. You have 20 vacation days. So here we need to let us see what are the various prerequisites for this. We need to install the Python, which is at least 3.8 plus version, Python version. And then we need to install Ollama. We can go to this website, Ollama, and download. And then once we have the Ollama installed, then we will pull the model Llama 3 from the command line terminal. Then we can start the server, Ollama server, locally. Next, we need to set up the virtual environment for the Python using the command. As we have seen here, python -m -env. This is the virtual environment. Then we need to activate that virtual environment using the activate command, source venv bin activate. On Windows, this is venv scripts activate command. Then we need to install the dependencies. The dependencies are in the requirements.txt file. The dependencies are requirements.txt file, which are ChromaDB and Ollama and NumPy. These are the dependencies. Pip install -r requirements.txt, that is the command to install the dependencies. As we see in the screen, we have set up the virtual environment, then we activated the virtual environment using activate, and then we install the dependent libraries. Now we will run the demo, simple rag demo.py. Then it will prompt the user. User can ask the question. So let us see the steps also inside this simple rag demo.py. So these are the import statements which we are importing ChromaDB, Ollama, and OS. Then this is the company policy document. Here company policy document. We can also use PDF document and read that PDF document, but I have given the text document for simplicity. So this is the company policy document. Now we will chunk that company policy document into smaller sections. This document has multiple sections. Vacation section 1, vacation time off, section 2, sick leave, section 3, holidays, section 4, work hours, section 5, benefits. Now we are going to chunk that by section. Each chunk size is 200. So here text.split n. So that means whenever there are two lines, next lines, it will split into separate section. We can also check the size of the chunk. If the size of this chunk is greater than certain predefined size, then we can make it smaller chunk. If there are bigger chunks than the specified size, we are going to make it smaller chunk. And we can also keep some overlapping between the two chunks to get the context. This is chunking strategy. This function is for setting up the vector database, which is Chroma database. So we are going to set this ChromaDB. As you can see here, I already have created the ChromaDB using this function setup vector database. First time when I ran this, ChromaDB is already created. ChromaDB.config settings. So this is the way to call the ChromaDB using the client.get or create collection. So this one is going to create the company policies collection, and it is going to persist the information. If it is already existing, it is going to get that collection. So this method index documents. This is to index the documents into the collection. In our case, HR policies document, we are going to index that into this ChromaDB collection. And before that, we are calling that chunk text to create chunks, and then we are going to add that chunks to this collection. As we can see, it is going to return the chunks. Now next function, this is for retrieving the context. We will pass that user query, and we are also passing that vector database name, collection name, and it is going to retrieve the specific context based on the query using the semantic search. So it is going to retrieve that specific chunk. It is combined context which is returned by the vector database. Now this function is used to generate the response. In this function, we are going to use the LLM, which is nothing but Llama model. And this is the query, user query, and this is the context. We are going to pass the context and query, and it is both will be augmented context and query, and we are going to call the Ollama 3 API model, and this is the model name Llama 3, and this is the augmented prompt, which is nothing but context plus query augmented prompt, and finally it is going to give the response, right? These are some of the parameters which are optional for sending a request to the model Llama 3 model. Now this is the function for the complete RAG workflow. Here we are going to call those functions, individual functions. So the step one is set up vector database that we are calling, and it returns the client, that vector database client, and the collection. And the step two is we need to, once we have the vector database ready, then we are going to index the company policy document. In this case, HR policies document. It can be any specific domain document. It need not be company specific HR policies. In this example, we are going to use HR policies, and it is going to create chunks. Then when the user sends the query, it is going to retrieve that context from that vector database, from that collection. And finally, when we send that augmented prompt to the model, it is going to generate the response. So this is the main function. We are going to call that this, but we are going to see the interactive approach by calling this simple rag demo.py. Let us see the demo now. So where we are, user is going to enter the question, then it is going to generate the response. So if the user sends exit, quit, or anything, then it is going to break. Otherwise, if there is a then it will prompt for the user to enter a question. Then it will call a retrieve context function and then generate response function. Finally, it returns response to the user. Now let us see in action. We already installed the requirements. Now let us run this and see in action. This was the previous thing. I'm going to stop this. Quit. It is going to previous session. It is going to quit. Now let us run this simple rag demo.py. So now as we see here, knowledge, it is example questions we can ask. It is already with the vector database, it created chunks, right? Answer, that is the previous one, simple rag demo.py. This is the where we are installing the, so it is interactive demo. It is initializing the rag system and ingesting the documents. As we see, these are the separate paragraphs, separate chunks. So it is creating the chunks, and finally all 10 chunks indexed to the ChromaDB vector database. This is the ChromaDB. Here we can see this is the directory. It is storing, persisting the data into this directory, and then we can it is now ready, so we can ask the questions. So let us ask the question, how many vacation days do I have? How many vacation days can an employee take per year? So now we sent a request. The model is thinking and retrieving the context and generating the response. According to the company policy, employee get 20 vacation days per year, right? Because our policy document contains that information, 20 vacation days per year. Employee gets 20 vacation days per year. So this is the first chunk, 20 vacation per year. Now let us ask the second question. How many sick leaves can employee take? How many sick leaves can an employee take per year? So now it is retrieving the context second chunk and then augmenting the query user question and model generated the response. According to section 2 of the company policy, a full-time employee entitled to take 10 sick days per year, 10 sick days per year. So this policy document, in this example, to keep it simple, I have given here this document. Instead of that, we can also any PDF document we can keep anywhere in the system and read that PDF document and pass to the vector database. So this is the example. We can ask any other questions also. Then it will give the information. So just to summarize what we have, I am going to quit this session now. Just to summarize what we have seen is, we have seen how to index the company policy document into the vector database, and then user can query the specific information about the HR policies. Then it will a model is LLM is giving the response. uh, Thank you.